Bob, have you seen this footage before?
No. I think that I was out there somewhere, probably looking at myself and can't recognise it. For me, it was an early introduction into Tasmanian football because I'd only been over here a few months, and it didn't really sink into me at the time because it meant so much to the Tasmanian players themselves. I don't know if they ever believed that it could happen, but it just did happen on the day. And they took it pretty hard, the Victorians. They weren't very impressed at getting beaten by a Tasmanian team.
And probably the thing that turned our way very early, Stewie Spencer, he hit Goggin, was it?
Bill Goggin?
Billy Goggin, yeah. It's short fun, I think, really in the first quarter, and it was a good one. So much that he never came back on. He was finished for the day. So that gave us a big start to go with. Kenny Sheen from the North West Coast, he got hurt in the first quarter, and Bobby Withers, you remember, he was 19th man. And when Kenny went off, he came on, and I think they put Neil Conlon, who was a champion player, into the centre, and Bobby went to the half-forward flank, and he was a tough man. And I reckon he had 2 or 3 of those blokes looking over their shoulders all day.
I wasn't in the squad, but there was a lot of injuries, and the Northern State selector got me to go to training on Sunday morning, and I said, well, I'm not in the squad, and he said, oh, I'm putting you in the squad, come down and have a run. And the selectors called me over to the fence and said, have you ever roved? And I said, yes. I roved for 3 years for Port Melbourne. I never roved in my life. But one of the strange things about it, when I turned up at the ground to go through the thing, the fella said, where's your pass? And, they didn't give me one. And he said, well, you got to pay to get in. I said, but I'm playing. He said, no, you need a pass, or you got to pay. I paid the money to go in and watch the game.
You played in one of the most famous, perhaps the most famous Tasmanian wins of all time, and you paid to get in.
He wouldn't let me in. He said, if you haven't got a ticket, you got to pay. Well, which is fair enough. He didn't know why. Didn't know who I was.
I think he would have learnt who you were pretty quickly, Bob.
Yes.
What did it mean to those players when they pulled on the Tasmanian jumper, do you think?
Oh, pride, satisfaction. I've reached it. I'm there.
Once the state side was picked, whether you come from the north or the south or the coast, that was just all forgotten. Just all good mates, all there to play footy. Up the top end of York Park in those days was a cycle track, and the scoreboard of the cycle track looked over the top of York Park, and I remember people sitting up on top of this scoreboard and in the cycle track watching the game. But I think the average spectator wouldn't never dream of beating a Victorian side.
Can you remember the roar of the crowd when a player kicked a goal?
Yes, I kicked what they said was the winning goal. The ball came down and there was a big pack of players, and I was in the front of the pack. Unfortunately, it dropped short, right in my arms. Thanks very much. And obviously it's right near the end, so I've gone back and was a little bit nervous. In fact, I was very nervous because I remember earlier at one stage I had a similar shot and kicked on the man the mark. So it was a bit of, anyhow, it went through. I was a hero.
I can remember on about 2 or 3 occasions we won the tap out of the centre, and Stuart Spencer broke away from the centre, and great big raking left foot drop kicks. I kicked a couple of goals, and one of them I remember, the Brownlow medalist, Vernon Howell, he went to throw himself across my boot, kicking the ball, but he didn't make contact.
Johnny Gale, All-Australian. Barry Strange, All-Australian. Murray Steele. Kelleher. Colin, he was a champion. You know, they're just really good players, really good players.
Darryl Baldock never played in that game against Victoria. His mother died during the week, and Stuart Spencer took over the captaincy. Jack Metherall, ex-Geelong player, he was coach. But there were some very good players. Jack Hawksley, centre forward. They had some good players too. Murray Wiedemann, the Collingwood champion. But one of the North Launceston players played with Collingwood, Lerrell Sharp. He took Murray Wiedemann out. So on the night before the game, kept him out till about 1 o'clock in the morning playing cards and having a few beers.
Well, the aftermath was disappointing because we had to come back to Hobart the same night. The celebrations weren't what they should have been, I don't think, you know. Like on the day, you couldn't move on the ground when the crew crashed us, and magnificent. I go a bit shy with about it because I'm really happy, you know.